this is working.
Hey, it
There it
works.
is. Yes, I think I get it. You just want to be on top. Now I understand. You
Yeah,
see how it works?
Instagram wants me to be on top, I guess.
It's like, this is not really my role, but okay.
Yeah.
So were you able to, well, let's get the niceties done first. How are you? How was your day?
Good, good. Slept in a little too late, but you know, it's a Sunday, so whatever. Yeah, but it's been good. Just got lots of homework coming up, got assignments and all that fun stuff. But yeah, how about you?
It was pretty good. I had a friend come over. We shot a bunch of content for
Oh yeah, I saw
YouTube
that.
channel. Yeah, almost all of it was voice related because I have that like ready to go, and I try to do it in little 5-minute chunks of like what each exercise is. So I'll be posting those whenever they get done with post production when my friend finishes them. So hopefully they turn out well.
Awesome.
And then I can hear you just fine. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, I can hear you all good.
Perfect. Okay, so my original intention with wanting to do this was just kind of talk about, you know, maybe did you have GCS?
Yes.
Okay, we never actually communicated yet. So for people watching, we said, okay, we're going to do this video, and we have not shared any information since so that we can discuss it and make it a little more natural. So, okay, that is good. So one of the, you know, I got a few questions, not a whole lot, but I was hoping to focus most of this for post-GCS stuff, but I'd like to start with how did we get here in the first place?
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
And that was one of the questions that I had as well was, you know, from people was, how did you decide that you wanted GCS? What was that decision-making process? I don't know if we want to go too deep into finding a surgeon and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I did actually get the one question I did get was how to find a surgeon, and that, which I didn't need to worry about since in Canada there's only one surgeon. But if you have anything to add to that, kind of when we get there, I think that would be good. But I think it's good to start with like making the decision and that, because I think that's a really interesting thing, and for me especially, it was not a very cut and dry decision.
Okay. Well, tell your story, then I'll tell mine. And
okay, so I never felt like I had much bottom dysphoria, and so I was always kind of, okay, well, I'll work towards surgery, I'll start doing the paperwork, but I'm not quite sure, it'll just get me closer, so if I make the decision, then it's all ready to go. And so yeah, like it was about 4 years after HRT that kind of like I was actually getting close to finishing all the paperwork and stuff for surgery, because paperwork was hell and that was awful.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, and so yeah, kind of got to that point and was like, okay, yeah, I need to make a decision now.
So question on that, your video chopped just a little bit. Was it 4 years after you started HRT?
Yeah.
Is that what okay. And then all that time you're working on paperwork and the back and forth with the Canadian government? Okay.
Yeah, government and okay, pro tip to everyone dealing with doctors, double check that they have received everything that they've sent. Just like, yeah, just double check, verify everything, because, you know, sometimes they send half the page by accident or half the document that they need, and then you gotta like get a call 6 months later that, oh, they haven't received this. Anyways, it's not fun. But yeah, like never, even to that point, I didn't feel like it, to me it felt like it'd be a nice to have, or like, oh, I'd like to be able to wear bikinis and stuff in summer, but otherwise it's not super dysphoric, and I'm not having too much trouble. But as it got kind of closer, that changed a little bit, and I definitely ended up having a bit more dysphoria as things got closer in that. And I had a friend that went through surgery, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, right, there's being reminded of all those perks, and like, oh, dang, okay, maybe, like, yeah, I think this is something I want. And so it was almost strange, like I wasn't 100% sure. And as I like talked about in my other video about HRT and not being sure, it was kind of the same thing, though with surgery it is much more terrifying, because that is a go to sleep one moment, wake up the next, and everything's changed.
Yes, you don't get a chance to go, oh, well, maybe this isn't for me.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But as it got closer, it was kind of like, okay, yeah, I don't want to back out now. Like, I'm feeling confident in this, even though it's absolutely terrifying. And yeah, eventually, just like, okay, time to go. And like, day of, it was, this feeling has stuck with me because it was so unique, I guess. But it felt like someone else had done all the work getting me up to that point, and I was just like following the steps of walking into the hospital, putting on the gown and that. Yeah, and just kind of going through the steps that someone else had set up, some past me had set up. But in the end, it was super worth it. We'll probably go into a bit more of the after stuff later, but I had like a lot of trouble getting used to things, like a bit of an identity crisis right after, which was kind of scary. But after that kind of passed, yeah, I didn't realize how much dysphoria I had until it was gone, and what a difference it made.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm glad it's worked out for you. That's definitely not something we want to find out later. Like, no.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I imagine the paperwork on that. So are you able to see, like when Sam does hers, there are little buttons at the bottom, and there's a little question mark button, and I had it, and I don't see it now that you're hosting.
Okay.
People can push a question mark and ask a question, and then you can cycle through the questions later.
Interesting. I have an option for like questions from your story, but I don't see last time I did this, questions just kind of popped up, and I'm not sure how people were asking them, but they showed up. So I'm not quite sure how that works.
Okay, maybe only you could see them if they were showing up, because I can't see
them.
Yeah,
possibly.
So if people are asking questions, if you can see a little question mark box down there, please ask your questions in that, because while we're talking, we're having a hard time reading. So most of this reading conversation is going to be amongst the people viewing. But I did see that there were a few questions that were there. We want to make sure we don't lose your comments. And all these questions are right over my face, so I can't help but look at them sometimes. I'm kind of scared of myself. So I'll look at you, not you, and we'll see how this works. Okay, so yeah, I don't know. I kind of understand that not quite knowing for certain until until after you're done. But for me, it was like when I first cracked my egg in 1999, I guess it was. At the time, you do research, and it was pretty much you had cross-dressers, you had transvestites, and you had transsexuals. And transgender, though it existed, wasn't really a widely used term yet. And for me, the way I felt, at first I thought I was a cross-dresser, but it's like, no, I'm a transsexual. And that put it in my head that, well, if I'm going to transition, I need to fully transition, because at the time, transition meant up to and including surgery.
Right.
And I mean, that was the WPATH thing. Everything was like pushing along. And I think we have a lot more flexibility now, in that, you know, everybody transitions in their own way. You don't have to transition to be transgender. But at the time, that was the mindset. And so for 20 years or 18 years, I sat on that. And when I finally came out, part of my acceptance to myself was the acceptance that, yes, I would go all the way through with surgery. That was where I was going to, you know, I can't say now that I'm here that it's the final step, but it was definitely an end goal. And so came out, things are good, start getting hair removal, like first thing before I even came out at work, like got to get all that worked out. And it wasn't until like 4 months later I'd gone to DEF CON in Las Vegas. And I was there mostly for QueerCon, and then they had a Beyond Binaries transgender group as well within QueerCon. And they were having a pool party. I'm like, yay! I got a little one-piece suit that I could wear, and I'm in the hotel room, and the tightest tuck I could get, and I just looked down, and it was, I think, my first moment of proper genital dysphoria. And I just was just like, I look obscene. And this is disgusting. And I pretty much took the suit off and laid in my bed and cried for the evening instead of going to the party. Yeah. So not terribly productive, but I realized that it was very, very important to me at that point versus just another step in the process. And that was August 2017. So my route there was pretty quick. Picking a surgeon was one of those things where it's just like, I have insurance at this new job I had, and I checked who's available. I know that the clinic that's here in Arizona, up in Scottsdale, the Meltzer Clinic, they're really funky about, they take Blue Cross Blue Shield and some plans and not a whole lot of insurance. So there weren't many options that route, and I knew I couldn't pay out of pocket for everything up front. So I had to look outside the state. And I'd read a Wired article about the work that Dr. Ting was doing in Mount Sinai, New York, and researched and asked some questions and ended up going out there last September for a consult. And that took the longest, was getting the consultation. That was like from December through September. And that was just because trying to line up all the appointments that you need to get at one time. And from there, it was from September. They called me back in October or November and said, okay, we were on a schedule. Can you come in February? We had a cancellation. Like, oh, no. It's way too early. So we ended up with end of April, and that worked out. So that was 9 weeks ago tomorrow, was where we went. And it was one of those things, like once I got past that episode in the summertime, it fell back into, okay, this is something we need to work at. It was less because, oh my God, I need to have it. It was, no, this is a goal. I need to tick off the boxes for the goal. And up until that last moment, where even walking down from in my operating gown and walking down to the theater, which was a strange experience, walking into the theater instead of just waking up in one. It was really, like you say, it's almost mechanical, just being pulled through the process. Like, this is what we're doing now. The night before, people are like, you're going to be really excited and stuff. I'm like, no, I'm really just concerned about pooping. Like, I had such a hard time with that, and it was an awful experience. And and then it was done. And I think the first thing I said to my wife after, the first thing she recorded was, "Is it gone?" And it was like, she didn't know what I was talking about. So I had to ask her twice. It's in the video. She's like, what do you mean? Like, the doctors? No, they're it was kind of silly. But yeah, it was just like, okay, now we're here. And I still don't feel any sort of gender euphoria at this point because of it. Like, it's nice to see it missing down there. But everything still, 9 weeks later, it still has a lot of swelling. So my pubic mound is swollen, so when I'm wearing pants, it still looks like there's a bulge down there and things like that, where it's just like, I don't have that, things are gone. And so that's where I sit right now. And how long ago was that for you?
That was about 8 months. That was back in September. So so a little ways, down to 1 dilation a day.
Oh, nice. Yes.
A life changer.
I'm still at 3 a day. I'm at least able to work. I don't know which dilators you're using. I'm using the Soul Source colored set, and I'm able to only use the orange one, the 1.5 inch. The big one. I don't know. But I don't have to warm up with the smaller ones anymore. I can just go straight to
Nice.
And that saves so much time.
My doctor's like, the official way to do it is to keep using the warm up warm-up ones.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I might try that to save some time. But I'm still not quite sure. It's tough. Like every time you go down and do it less often,
Mhm.
it kind of becomes more difficult each
Right.
time. So,
That makes sense. So probably have to drop the green and orange again.
yeah, yeah,
That makes sense.
yeah.
Yeah. So what was, you know, wake up, look down.
Yeah.
What was that first couple of weeks like?
First couple of weeks were bad. I did not like. It was a relief to have it done, but
Mm-hmm.
those weeks in bed were like awful. I did not enjoy them. I had a lot of like emotional discomfort. I had breast augmentation at the same time,
Mm.
and so it was a lot of change all at once that sort of my mind wasn't prepared for. So it was like, oh gosh, what have I done? I'd like, yeah, just like, and like right after, there's there's no sort of, I want to say reward, but that's not quite it. But like, but there's, the good parts haven't started yet. Like, there's nothing good about it. It's just pain, and that old thing's gone, which is good, but also it's replaced with a whole bunch of pain and just unpleasant doctor stuff. Um, yeah, and so it was a lot of like, oh no, what have I done? For the first week, and I was really weak. Like I had a lot of trouble. Like we have had to get up and do some walks around that, and
Mm-hmm.
I fainted like 3 times doing that.
Oh
Um,
no.
so yeah, it was a really rough time.
Was that while
Couldn't,
you were still in the hospital?
yeah, yeah.
At least you had
So
somebody there.
yeah, because I had to travel to Montreal for
Mm-hmm.
mine. We had like there was like the hospital, and then right next to it is a sort of like housing place where everyone who isn't local stays for the next couple weeks or so. I think it's 2 weeks, a week, something like that. And so yeah, which was nice. Like it was set up, and everyone who was working there, like it was like clockwork. They were so good, and like the surgeons, I was amazed that like surgery only took like an hour and a half to 2 hours or something for each
Wow.
person. They were like on the ball. It was really impressive. But yeah, and then they had like the little housing place, which was nice. So like I got my own room and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But it was hard to eat and still very difficult, and could barely like walk up and down the stairs and that.
Yeah, the
So
stairs.
yeah, stairs. Oh, and even for like a fair bit while after I got home as well, like walking was no like really difficult, and then there was a fair bit of pain. And so it took sort of for that first month. By the end of the first month, when things kind of stopped hurting so much, and I was able to not walk much, but I was able to get up and just be somewhat functional. Then kind of a lot of my worries started to pass by, and then by like the second and third month, it's like woohoo, this is fantastic.
I'm waiting for that still. Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, this is so. Yeah, my first week was, 3 full days in the hospital, and then ambulance ride to my friend's house in Harlem from wherever, I don't know, downtown New York, and they had to get an ambulance, and it was covered because I had like 9 stairs to go up. And they're like, well, if it was 10 stairs, it'd be covered. I don't know about 9. So eventually the social worker got it to, be approved.
Yeah.
And my doctor's instructions, from what I can tell with everybody's different stories, are all over the place for what their recommendations are. So mine was restrict to 150 steps a day. And that restriction's never fully been lifted. They haven't told me I can do more other than I'm like, can I move around more? And they're like, if you feel like it. It was for the first couple of weeks, got the wound vac, which I don't know if you had, where it's like they shrink wrap the area and have suction, and it just sucks away drainage. So I had that, and I had a catheter, which I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
you had a catheter.
Yeah.
I had that for the first week, and it was just like you're walking around with all this stuff in your crotch, and you
Yeah.
can't move, and it's swinging when you go to try to use the bathroom, and you don't use the bathroom for a very long time. And it was just like that. I feared the toilet.
Yeah.
Because it hurt so much just to sit on that toilet seat. Like it was probably 8-9 days before I had my first bowel movement, and I was trying, but it was like after that it was still awful. Like it's better now. Well, that first one was a doozy, and it was just one of those things. Like right off the bat, I'm like, I've had surgeries before. I've had both my elbows worked on. I've done things, and it was just like, oh, I've had surgery. It should be fine.
Yeah.
Oh, I had no idea what I was in for. And
yeah.
Gosh, 2 weeks out, after getting all the junk out of you, it's like, yay, it's such a relief. But then it doesn't really last, that relief, because it's like, if we're going by spoon theory, every day you start with one fewer spoons because you were hurting all day yesterday.
Right.
And so it's like, it's hard. And the depression that you were talking about that you had kind of right afterwards, that downer, that didn't hit me until, so my wife was with me in New York for 2 weeks, and then she had to come home. And it wasn't until about that third week that it really, just laying in bed, I'm kind of getting up and walking around the apartment to get food or whatever, and kind of just alone. And I had visitors come every, a couple of days while I was out there in New York, but for the most part, it was just lonely. And then you start going, gosh, did I do the right thing? And you start doubting yourself, and then it's just
and
down.
you have so much time to doubt yourself. Like you have nothing else to do, nothing to keep you busy. You're just there with your thoughts.
It's so hard. So coming home was a treat. And flying home at 4 weeks, that hurt so much. But it was like, what are you going to do? But I'll tell you, I don't know if you've ever used wheelchair service at an airport.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. They take you right to the front of the line, and you get to board first, and it was fantastic. So I was pretty happy about that part. But yeah, it was get home, and then now I'm pretty much on the couch. I tried walking around the neighborhood that first, like after about a week of being home, and it laid me up for another couple of days. I go on my Tuesdays, I have a long drive into town, and then I have all-day appointments at the Veterans Administration for support group and personal one-on-one. And then there's the regular support group for the community that happens Tuesday nights. So by the time I do that and then drive home, I've been out of the house for like 8 hours. And it takes until Saturday to recover from that because it just hurts. And oh my gosh, just so much more than I expected. I expected 8 weeks. I'm almost at 9 weeks. I'm doing pretty good because I'm sitting here on my cushion on the chair, and I can probably do this, for this hour. But it's been a lot more than I expected. It's a challenge for sure.
Definitely. And I actually, I had planned to go back to work, which didn't end up working out anyways. But it ended up being like about 3 months, but like they tend to say like 2 months and then you can look at going back to work. But like it was definitely like 3 months at least for me because just the amount of dilating is ridiculous. And there's still like a fair bit of pain at that time. Like I still get pain every once in a while, just little bits and that. But like, it's so much and so exhausting. You're still like recovering through over all those months. Like, it's a lot.
I think it wasn't until about 7 weeks that I could read a book because I couldn't focus. I just didn't have the mental faculty to focus, and that was distressing because I'm going to have all this time out of work. What am I going to do? I'm going to catch up on TV shows. I'm going to read all these books and all this stuff. And it's like, no, I pretty much just laid there and texted or whatever with people. And it was just, I didn't have a whole lot of extra resources to do fun things even. So it's like, I'm out of work, but I'm also out of play. Oh no.
Yes, true.
It was really hard.
I found definitely Like I had brought like my Switch and that to play Smash Bros and stuff. And or Smash Bros wasn't out at the time, but to play games and that. But like there was no way I was playing games in the yeah, like you said, it's like playing Candy Crush and watching ContraPoints for my two.
Yeah.
It was all I could do.
The person I was staying with told me about ContraPoints, but I still haven't watched any of her videos.
Oh, do it.
I'm told they're good. I just need to make time for it and do it because I have so much else going on right now.
Yeah.
Make time for it.
They are long videos, but they're really highly recommended.
Yeah, the other thing that surprised me, so let's talk about our dilation schedules and what our doctors told us, because I do have a dilation buddy that we're often dilating at the same time, so we text each other and we're just chatting and comparing, taking pictures and comparing notes and stuff. And she had her surgery 2 weeks after I did, so we're kind of laid up together. And what her doctors tell her is completely different than what my doctors told me.
Really?
So, yeah. So I'm curious what your doctors told you. How did they have your dilation schedule, or like what the process is?
Yeah. Yeah, so right after surgery, there was like 4 days, I think, before any sort of dilation, because they had the stint and everything, and oh gosh,
getting that pulled out.
Yeah, yeah, and then it was 4 dilations a day for the first little bit. I can't remember how long exactly that was. It might have been the whole like first month even, and then went down to 3, and so like each one was 10 minutes with the medium-sized dilator, and then 15 with the large, and yeah, just that 4 times a day, then 3 times a day I think it was at a month after, and then at about at the end of 3 months, it went down to twice a day, which was then is like, okay, I can like function as a human being again.
Right? I can wake up, dilate, go to work, come home, dilate, go to sleep.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah. Okay. So did you only have 2 sizes, or is that when you say smaller and larger?
3, but I never needed the smaller one.
Oh, okay.
So it was optional.
Yeah. For us, with Dr. Ting, the paperwork is different than what was said on, in person when they came.
Oh no!
And yeah, paperwork's just like dilate at least twice a day, use the smallest one for a week, and then advance in size as is comfortable. So that very first week, it was a 1 week appointment that I had everything removed, all the packing removed, and then I could dilate. They showed me how to use the dilator and all that. And I'm going to stop for a demonstration here because this is relevant. I know people in Facebook groups that were not shown by their doctor how they're supposed to dilate, and they try to just visual aids. They try to just jam it in, and if I'm laying flat and you just jam it in, there is a lot of your pelvic floor muscle. There's a muscle band in the way that you need to go around. And people are talking about, how do you get the dilator and it won't go in? I had to call the doctor. It was stuck. It was just like, your doctor sucks. No, maybe not. Sucks at aftercare. But it was just like, no, the way that I was taught and the way it's worked for me, and tell me if this is different for you, is if I'm laying there, you come in at a 45-degree angle, push until you reach bottom, and then as I push down on the dilator, it kind of naturally just slides in the rest of the way. So you're kind of getting around that muscle band, you're getting around, if you still have your prostate, you're getting around the prostate, and boy, do you feel that. And so it definitely is a process of coming at an angle, bring it down, and slide around that stuff. So that said, what they told me versus what was written, use the smallest, use the purple one. As soon as you feel like you can, as soon as it's easy, go to the next size. So, so I'm like, all right. So I went from purple to blue. Mine are Pinky, Blinky, or Pinky, Inky, Blinky, and Clyde. the Pac-Man ghosts. That's what they're named after. So I went to Inky, and that was within like 3 days. So I had upsized to there, and then I went from that one up to green, and that was after my 1 week or 2 week post-op visit. They're like, "Oh, you can keep going." I'm like, okay. So I tried, like, oh yeah, it worked. Okay, but I had tried green and it didn't go. Like, crap. But that was when they told me, like, no, use the blue one for a little while and then swap out and it should go in. I'm like, wow, that worked fantastic.
Yeah.
And then after about another week, so 2.5 weeks post-op, I went from green to orange, and that worked. And their whole thing was like, you go as fast as you can, because since the tissue is just now healing, it's a whole lot easier to stretch now than later when it's all scar tissue and you're trying to stretch healed skin. I'm like, okay, that makes sense to me. So I went, and this is probably 2.5 weeks and maybe an extra day on there. I was like, well, I wonder if I even need the green one anymore. And so I tried without it, just did the orange, and it went. It wasn't easy, but it was a little tender. And after 3 times of that, I felt like it was just bruising, like pushing against the bone inside, and it was just hurt so bad. So after the 3rd time, I only had it in for maybe 10 or 15 minutes. I pulled it out and just curled up in a ball and cried for a while. And I'm not usually a pain crier, so it was really intense. And it was, the paperwork said twice a day or more as needed. So in the beginning, I was like, or more? Well, okay, 3 times. So I started at 3 times. But then I eventually upped it on my own to 4. And again, it was just one of those, well, now I'm afraid of the orange one because it hurts so bad. So I went back to green, and on the 3-week visit, my doctor's like, no, go up to orange, just use the green one first. And it worked. And I did that until 7 weeks. And then now, since about week 7, I just go straight to orange. And it takes about 45 seconds to get it in, maybe a minute. And there's always that little bit of pain at first, but like, it's like, that's really just kind of because you're pressing so hard against the prostate as it goes around it. It's just like, you're not relaxed, and it's just like, get it in there. And once it's full depth, it's like, okay, we're good. That's fine.
I can sit back, watch my show.
So yeah, and that's kind of where I'm at now, but 3 times a day. Just the one dilator. But yeah, it was just, I saw people on Facebook. There's a number of SRS groups, GCS, SRS, GAS, whatever we're calling it this year. And they were just like, yeah, I hate Dr. Ting. He messed up my aftercare because he didn't have me increase size on my dilators, and so everything healed up real small. And I'm just like, that's not at all what they told me. I mean, they were very adamant. Like, as soon as you can get bigger, just so long as you're maintaining depth.
Yeah.
It's like, even if you can get it in, if you can't maintain the depth, go down to the next smallest one.
Yeah. That's interesting, that, like, with Dr. Ting, it sounds like you work your way up, where for me it was like, you start off on orange every
time.
Green and orange every day.
I think it's just a kinder, gentler way. I don't know, but I also have friends that they're fine with the green one, the next size down. And they're just like, yeah, it's good enough for me. They, every couple of weeks or so, they try the orange one and go, yep, it still fits. And then they go back to green every day. And I don't know. I know a lot of us have, we've got different bone structure through the hip region than cis women do. And there isn't a huge opening down there. So I mean, I wasn't certain if orange was going to work. I'm like, there's bones in the way.
My first time seeing that, like, oh my, how?
Yeah, for anybody watching, to start off, in my set anyway, started off with the purple, and that seemed like, okay, that was pretty massive, and moving up to blue was like, oh my God, and then orange. And that really is scary. It's a 3/8 inch diameter difference, which is more than an inch in circumference. It's massive. So, yeah, it's a scary thing. And I brought visual aids because I thought it'd be funny. And my next order came. So this is my life now. all the lube.
Oh. Oh.
Suddenly, those 55-gallon drums of KY on Amazon make a lot of sense.
Right? Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's a huge
Yeah.
supply. Oh. So some of the
Yeah.
other stuff. Let's see. So what were some of the surprises in the healing process that maybe nobody prepared you for?
Yeah. Oh, there was a lot actually. I was worried about a few things. The main thing that worried me was that I didn't realize that like innies existed. Like which that's probably not the proper term, but that's what the porn subreddits call it. So which is where I finally figured out this thing. But the look can be very different, and like I probably don't want to get like go into detail, but like I really expected things to kind of be able to open up and like have a very clear clitoris and stuff, where it was not as clear at all, and like yeah, and especially with the amount of swelling early on, and even later on, like yeah, there's a lot of swelling, and it's hard to know what's going on down there. Yeah. That was sort of the big one that I was worried about for a bit until my doctor took a look and was like, "Wow, your surgeon does a really good job." I'm like, "Oh, thank you, doctor."
I guess it's okay.
Like that's a good sign. Yeah. Those sort of the big ones. It was a while ago now, so I can't remember exactly, but there was a lot of like things that I kept wanting to ask the nurses, like, is this okay? Is this okay? Turns out pretty much everything was fine. It just like healing is a weird process.
Yes.
That and really, yeah, really strange. There's I think it's fibrosis, which was really weird and really gross. Just like this tissue that grows and
like the fibroids, the connective tissue.
Yeah.
Between? Oh.
Or like yeah, it's like a little bits that like grow out of the healing process and then fall out.
They do fall out?
Oh, thank you, Ariel. Yes.
And
or like they
okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where it's like little tongues sticking out.
Yeah, the little vagina squids.
Yes, I was thinking it looks kind of like a Sarlacc pit. Reaching out for Boba Fett. It's just like, at first it looked kind of like an alien, or not an alien, a predator mouth. Like everything's like, and then I'm just like, what is this coming out of me? Like, why? And then I've got a tongue. I've got an extra tongue down there. Like, where did that come from? And then it like delaminated, and now I've got two. I'm just like, this isn't right. I've got sandworms coming out of my vagina. And then it's got the granularization on it on the top of that, the granulated tissue. And so it's just like really raw and angry, but it's just like, stop, please. So I have an appointment actually tomorrow with the people here in Scottsdale to go and have my have the silver nitrate put on the granulated tissue, because that's where most of my discomfort comes when I'm sitting. Is just that red raw area, and it's just not healing up happy. So hopefully,
well, that's good. The nitrate I found did like wonders for that. Like it fixed it pretty fast. I needed 2 treatments, but like it was like it just works. It works so well.
I'm excited. Okay.
Yeah. Though it looks really weird at first. It's like
I've seen pictures, and like it's all black because like the silver oxidizes, and it's like this gnarly looking, but it's like it looks pretty gross. Yeah, the thing with the clitoris as well is, you can't, when you first come out of surgery and you're playing around and you're feeling, and like I kept poking different spots to see what it felt like. Oh, that was a scrotum, and yep, that was the. And at first it feels like when you dilate, it feels, so I intended to get pretty graphic on this episode.
Okay.
I hope, but
We should have done a not safe for work disclosure at the beginning,
yeah.
but oh well.
That was how I advertised it at first. I hope people understood, well, me. But it feels like somebody has a really tight grip on your penis when you first dilate. Or when I first dilated, that's what it felt like. Because that tissue was all still there. Now, I didn't have a whole lot of sensation for like pokey sensation, but pressure sensation was still there. And then it's like where the hood is and all the swelling in the tissue, it's all pushed up, and the clitoris is under this hood, and it, oh my God, it would swell, and it would be like having an erection while having a super tight tuck. So tucked or in like really tight pants, and then it's just like getting the most raging hard on inside the tightest pants you can find. And one that's really kind of dysphoria inducing. Because like, wait a minute, what? And if you wake up like that, it's like, holy shit. But also it's like I found like the best way to alleviate that, or like when the clitoris, which has all sorts of stitches running straight through the damn thing, when it starts getting really itchy, is exactly that motion. Like on my pubic mound, on either side of where it sits, would just kind of go like this, and it would just be like, and it wasn't sexual, it was just relief from the itching. And so stuff like that, where it was just, I don't know, I can reach up under the hood and feel around things, and it's like, okay, cool, but I'm afraid to do that because I feel like I'm gonna hurt something. And also where the sensation is, it's like 3 inches higher than you think it should be in your brain. So it's just like, why am I touching way up here? And all they do is really just kind of curl that nerve up and jam it all in there. It's like a spring-loaded thing. So it's pretty bizarre. But the way it felt like, well, I'm never going to have access to my clitoris ever. Because it felt like it was so far under the hood. But then I take pretty much daily pictures of things. And as the swelling reduced, it would be like, oh, wait, there she is. And I'm so excited. Like, I can't find it. Okay, this is good. So that sheer volume of swelling. Oh God. Yeah,
this is amazing. I didn't realize that was like possible.
And then tell me if this happened to you. It's happened to me, and it happened to my friend, and she's going through it right now. It lasted about 2 weeks for me, and it was about week 7, where it just, I had drainage at the top. Around the clitoris, so I basically pressed on my pubic mound, and actually there was a massive amount of drainage that came out, and just was an awesome relief. But then after that, like every time I dilated, it's like you're not using a lot of lube to dilate. I mean, you're pretty much coating it, right? And so you're putting maybe a teaspoon on, and then I get like 3 tablespoons of stuff out, like every time. Like it would just be like, blah. And I took video of that too, because I take video of everything, and it looks, I have seen videos like that before. I think they might have been misbranded, but it's just massive amounts falling out of me. And so I always dilate on a puppy pad, and I'd be done, and I might have a 10, 12-inch circle of wet on the puppy pad, which is a whole lot more than the lube I put in. So that was very distressing. It freaked me out. And I talked to the doctors, and they're just like, just make sure you rinse afterwards. Douche in the shower. Okay. Good to go. Oh, I guess. That's a lot. But that subsided. That stopped after about 2 weeks of that. And my friend is going through it. She hit that 7-week mark. That's exactly what's happening to her. It's just more stuff keeps falling out of her.
So. Interesting. I didn't have that at all. It was just mostly like the fibrin and stuff was sort of the only things falling out. Though I did get like with the clitoris stuff, I got a lot of like electric feeling little pings and that, which was really like strange at first until I looked it up and was like, okay, this is normal.
It's nerve healing.
Yeah.
That was one of my questions that somebody gave me, was like the sensations afterwards. Not feeling a whole lot of sensation or a lot. So I don't know about you. I'm a type 1 diabetic, and I have peripheral neuropathy in my feet. So I don't like it. You can never quite be used to nerve pain, but I'm familiar with nerve pain in that regard, where you don't really get a choice. It just kind of happens, and it doesn't make sense, and there isn't necessarily something you can itch or touch to make the pain go away. And so I was already on gabapentin, which is a drug that promotes growth healing and regrowth, nerve healing and regrowth.
Okay.
And so Dr. Ting actually prescribes that as part of the regimen afterwards as well. But I was already on a bigger dose than they prescribed. So that sensation and the nerves healing and reattaching and just growing, yeah, it's uncomfortable, and there isn't a whole lot you can do about it. That electric shock where you're just walking, whoa, you know, it can be intense. Like for all the numbness that's down there, that's the healing process.
Yeah. It's amazing the amount of like numbness and also the sharpness of other sensations at the same time. Like it doesn't make any sense. But
like I'm poking it, I don't feel it. Oh, I feel it inside. Yes. And there was also like, I would liken it to, especially within the clitoral hood, under the hood, it was so much like ants would just be like walking around in there. And at first it was like, well, that's kind of nice. And then like an hour later, you're like, I'm done with that. And every once in a while, one of those little buggers would just bite. And you're just like, you never know what, So yeah, it's definitely something that I think is needle jabs. Yes. I like that. For everybody that's been watching, Ariel, she had her surgery a while ago. I saw her in chat say, and she's been like super helpful adding supplemental commentary to our discussion here. Yeah, so that was something I expected, but you still can't prepare for. Like I knew it was going to happen, but I didn't know what form it was going to take. So what else? I don't think if there were any other questions. One of the questions I got, what made me laugh, was why are pads the absolute worst?
Yeah.
And yes, they are.
Like,
I didn't menstruate for about 30 years when I could have if I had been a cis woman, and I'm making up for all of it right now at one time. Are you so for that? How long did needing, like right now it's like every 3-4 hours I need to change out, and that's still ongoing. A lot of that is if I've been sitting, then it's even worse. But did it ever go away?
Yeah, it's completely gone. Like I didn't have that much like for the first month maybe like need like pretty much like a pad or two a day, but after that it kind of went down to like just when I needed it for the most part. I guess it was by like about 3 months is like, okay, or by the end of 3 months probably I didn't really need any, I don't think, or it would be very, very minimal.
Switching from like a pad to a panty liner, something like that.
Yeah, and definitely like went away soon by like 4 months for sure. It was like completely gone. Just sometimes like after cleaning it can be nice to have something, just because douching and suddenly there's a lot more stuff up there.
It takes a couple minutes to fall out.
Yeah.
It was like one of those things where I'm married. I don't know what your situation is, and my wife, she saw that like I was basically every time I would dilate, I would change my pad, and when things were really gross, that was just really not often enough. But it didn't occur to me that I should be changing it more often. And so basically what you end up with is a little bit of like diaper rash on the labia. And it's wet, too much moisture just sitting there and rubbing. And she's like, hey dummy, why are you taking so long between changing your pad? And it didn't occur to me. Like these are things that cis women tend to figure out pretty early on in the process, or they have a mom or somebody coach them. And it was just an eye opener, just how much I don't know about this, but also people my age assume I know.
Yeah.
Everybody they know already knows this
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Just the difference. Go ahead.
A lot of that stuff can be a little like dysphoria inducing, of like the social dysphoria of not being like, yeah, I should have learned this at some earlier point. And you know, it's common knowledge among cis women and that. And yeah, there's a couple like little things like, and just things like that that come up all through life,
Yeah.
which is difficult to deal with. But now we know. So
Yeah. I mean, you only have to learn it once and make those mistakes 3 or 4 times.
yeah.
Just simple things like the difference between pads and panty liners.
Yeah.
And overnights, things like that. It was just like, I never had to know that.
Yeah.
Why would I? And so yeah, the first time we're sitting there before surgery, I'm building my nest and go to CVS with my wife, and she's like, well, what do you need? I'm like, I have no idea. So we got boxes of different things, try out this and that. And so took everything home. I was using like overnights, which for the first week, maybe, after things came out. After that, it was just the regular heavy flow pads. But I was like, well, I've got this box of panty liners. Why don't I just use those instead of buying another box of pads? And I opened it up. I'm like, it's so little. This is not going to do it. Like, I look at what's in. Yeah, there's not enough surface area. So I learned. And I don't know. Dr. Ting does a modified penile inversion, and he uses peritoneal tissue from within the scrotum for the deepest part of the vagina. And that peritoneal tissue heals, and it has its own mucosum, and it's a lot more like a natural vaginal canal. So it will be the traditional self-cleaning organ more quickly. And, probably not enough of my own lube production for intercourse or something like that. Or, I'll always have to use something for dilation. But at least it keeps things flowing, and it's much more natural. And so I don't know at what point I'm going to be able to stop having to worry about those feminine hygiene products. And Ariel said for her too, it's about 3 or 4 months that she was able to stop wearing them. I've seen people online that are like 7, 8 months and they're still daily.
Wow.
Too. So it's such a mixed bag.
Yeah.
We're all different. Our bodies are different.
Yeah. And all the surgeons are different, and the procedures are different, and
So here you are, 8 months out.
Yeah.
Maybe almost 9 now.
Yeah.
Now are you happy with your results?
Oh, totally.
Awesome.
Life changing. Like, the best part has to be like the confidence, which I like is a strange thing to attribute to like the surgery that like no one else
can see.
really sees and notices, but like I notice it myself where I feel much better, like happier in clothing, just like not having a tuck reminding me of things and that.
Sit down.
And just like
cool.
the sexual freedom too is really nice. So yeah, it's good, and like feeling more comfortable in that is all around. It's been like a complete game changer. That I'm way bigger of a change than I had expected going into it. Definitely like didn't expect. It was like, oh, it won't make that much of a difference going in, and then coming out the other side now it's like, wow, I can't believe I ever lived like before. That was crazy. And so definitely worth it, and really good. And now that like things are pretty much all healed, there's not too much left. Like it's just some dilations here and there. It's been really nice, and especially with summer here, bikini season. Yes.
Nice. And you've got the body for it, so you can wear the bikini.
Oh, thanks.
Maybe next summer. No. It won't So, yeah, I'm still at that point where it's like, this is still pretty ugly. 9 weeks, and the way Dr. Ting does some of the stuff, like, it's really hard to describe without, here, let's just drop mine and show you. He takes some tissue and pulls it up the sides and tacks it along the inner thigh seam.
Yeah.
And that apparently, as it heals over 6 months to a year, falls down into a more natural outer labia. But
Oh.
right up front, it just looks like things are pulled off to the side. And like my wife's looking at that, and she's like, "Is it supposed to be like that? Because mine doesn't look like that." And he just turned around, and Dr. Ting's a really not terribly interactive kind of guy.
Okay.
He's just like suddenly passionate, like, "Are you saying I don't do good work? That's a beautiful vagina. What are you talking about?" She's like, I'm sorry. You know, all of the people that work with him are just like, "Wow, that turned out really good." And I'm still looking at it going, "This looks like an Arby's roast beef sandwich in saran wrap. Like, this is just ugly." But they know what it looks like at different stages, so I guess.
Yeah. You kind of need to trust them a little bit with that stuff. Like, it's going to turn out okay. It's going to be pretty ugly for a little while, but it'll work out. And yeah. And I think also like a little bit of it is just like getting used to that and like being like, right, this is what this looks like. And it's never like, like vaginas anyways aren't like pristine, perfect things.
Vaginas are messy.
Yeah. And so
I don't know how many you've had access to, but they all look so different.
Yeah.
Not a single one is the same. And I think the only point that I really had where it's been like, yeah, that's right, and okay, we're not safe for work filter again, is that feeling of just sliding the finger in, not quite into the vaginal canal, but between the labia and down towards the canal. That feeling inside, in between the labia, is so natural.
Yeah.
That I'm like, I have felt this before. This is okay. This makes me feel good.
Yeah.
Like, okay, this is what it's supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing.
Awesome.
But,
yeah.
Okay. So we're at 7 o'clock. It's about an hour.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get kicked off soon on your side. So.
Yeah, I don't see the timer yet, but yeah. Is there anything else? Did you get any more questions?
I didn't. There was somebody asked one way back up there, but it was like really early, and I think we covered the topic. But
oh yeah, I think we got the chat mostly covered.
Yeah, there was a lot of redundancy in the questions I did get because I asked in a number of different places. And Ariel, very last daily dilation, awesome. Now to once a week. That's fantastic.
Oh.
How many years does that take?
1 year to get there, I believe. But then
your mileage may vary, right?
Yeah.
One thing I did want to reiterate, and this is for any trans women watching, is that again, this is not necessarily for everybody, and just because people are getting bottom surgery doesn't mean that you are any less trans if you don't want it, or if you're not able to get it. This is something that has worked out in our lives based on the situations we're in, as well as the needs that we had for ourselves. But it's very important that you're still valid, and if you want it and can't have it, or even if you don't want it, you're still valid in who you are. And if anybody tells you otherwise, send them my way, and I'll mom all over them. And we don't need any of that crap. So just remember that, please. I don't want people to get feeling like this, or inadequate.
Yeah, especially for like people who like do want it and are still a ways out as well. I feel it's like it's a difficult place to be in, or not being able to for whatever reason. Like, there's, it can be difficult to see that and still feel valid. And it's important. Everyone's valid. Everyone's valid.
Everyone's valid. You can't do you wrong.
Yeah.
You're always you. Nobody else can do you right, but you can't do you wrong.
So there's 15 seconds left, so let's close this up.
So much fun. Thank you so much for joining. This has been great.
Yeah, it's been really good.
Pride.
Yeah, happy Pride. Have a good night.
Good night.